Alrighty. So first of all, what I wanted to do was just mention that everything that I'm going to be going through today is in Schoology, the notes file that I put together. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can have this file up. And so this is the file that I'm going to just kind of go through to make sure that we really understand all the details. So first of all, the key thing to notice is if you plan to do your work with handwriting, you have to take the test as if you are literally handwriting on paper and pencil. So whether you do that on a piece of actual paper or if you do it on your iPad, that is your choice. But you have to go either all typed or all handwritten. You can't do a mix and a match. And so that's one thing that we need to really be careful for on our iPads, because I know some of you like to switch back and forth between handwriting and typing, which normally would make sense on an iPad, but in the way that they are accepting your work, it has to be one or the other. So I'm going to first talk about those of you that choose to handwrite in Notability. So first of all, it has to be a plain white background. You can't use any, colorings, graph paper, none of that. It has to be plain white. You can use lined or unlined, but it has to be plain white. And then on the top of each page that you upload, you have to have your initials, your AP ID number, and the page number. So if you write your solution and it ends up taking more than one page, then you would have your initials, your ID number, and the page number at the top of every single page. You're allowed to have up to 5 pages per problem, and they have to be numbered. So let's say each problem, I believe they said is going to have 3 parts. So a code writing A, a code writing B, and then a short answer, open-ended question, part C. So you would want to, say part A and then have your code. Part B, have your code, and then part C, and then you would write your solution out. You want to make sure that you're using one color ink, so black or blue, nothing fancy. Again, just like if you were writing with pencil and paper. The other thing that's super important is that you have to make sure you are writing in a vertical orientation. I know a lot of us are used to writing on our iPads with them sideways, which you can totally do that, but when it comes time to submit your work, it needs to be screenshotted in vertical orientation. The next thing I want to mention is that some of you have this excruciatingly small handwriting, which, it's beautiful and it's great, and you use that little magnifying glass tool and your handwriting looks beautiful. But if you were to screenshot your page and then look at it on a computer screen, your answer would take up like maybe 20% of the page, and that's not ideal. We want your work to essentially fill the page. Okay. So, so that's another thing. Can you guys stop writing on the screen, please? Thank you. So we want to make sure that we're filling the screen. So if needed, if you do write really tiny, then use the lasso tool, enlarge your writing and so on, so it's easy to see. All right. So when you're all done with your work, you want to make sure your iPad's in this vertical orientation so that your short edge of your iPad is at the top, kind of like how a piece of paper would look, and then screenshot it. After you've screenshotted it, look at it on your camera roll. Make sure it's clear, you can read all of it, nothing got cut off. If it's not clear, then go back, enlarge the work, do it again. All right. Now, after you've done this, it's up to you how you want to get your images to wherever you're uploading to, email, Google Drive, that's your preference. And then you'll upload all of those files. So a couple people have asked me about whether or not it matters what the files are named. I haven't seen anything that says they have to be named a certain thing. If I were taking the test, I would probably name it question 1 and question 2. If they're screenshots, then they're going to have the same name that your images are called when you screenshot it, just like if you took a photo with your cell phone. Okay, so the name of the file is not really super important. What's important is that you have your initials, your AP ID number, and if you have more than one page, that they're numbered. That is what matters, okay? So this is if you are using your iPad to handwrite. Some of you also had said that you plan to handwrite on paper, and if you plan to do that, they show lots of examples. You want to make sure you take your photo in good light, that it's same vertical orientation, there's not a whole lot of stuff around it in the background, all of those things. It's super important that when you do your upload that you make sure that every image is attached, because you cannot go back. There's no do-over option. You can't submit twice. You get one shot, okay? So some things to think about: you might want to make a folder on your desktop so that when you email or upload those files, you can put them all in one folder, and so that you know exactly what you're trying to upload and there's no confusion. All right, now others are saying, or before I go on, do we have any questions about Notability handwriting? All right. Thank you. Others have said that they plan to type their work on the computer. That's probably what I would do myself, just because I type much faster than I write. Now, some of you, I joke that you're slow typers. If you're a slow typer, then handwrite it. If you know that you have nice handwriting and you know that you're not that fast on a keyboard, then there's nothing wrong with handwriting your solution. Do what works best for you. And that's where our assignments this week will help you decide what the best option is. So when you type your solution, you have a couple options. Option one is you can use Eclipse or BlueJ like you've been using all year. Some things to remember is that you're only going to be typing code snippets. Now, as you're typing these code snippets, you're going to get compile errors. For example, imagine the quiz that we took the last week, the one that had the text slang. Let's say I did not give you the file for textslang.java. Well, when you typed your text translator class, you would have had tons of errors everywhere you typed the word text slang. If it's going to bother you to see all those errors, then don't type in Eclipse. That'll just throw you off and just mess you up while you're doing your work. If that's the case, then use something else like Notepad++ or TextEdit if you're on a Mac, so that way you can still be in a code editor where it'll format for you nicely. Every time you hit tab, give you a few spaces. It won't try to autocorrect like Word or Google Docs would, but it won't also be trying to compile at the same time. There's also features where you can turn off the auto compiler, so that might be something else you want to do. Again, this is where this week is the time to be practicing these types of things so that you can see which environment is the best for you. Now, once you have finished typing your solution, again, you're going to have a part A and a part B that are code, and then you'll have a part C that is an open-ended. And the open-ended is typically going to be something like, let's say you wrote a method in part B. Part C might say, let's say you wanted to change the method to work this way. Describe how you would write it differently. In the open-ended, they do not want you writing code, and this is super important to remember. So this is where you're going to write using complete sentences. You're going to describe your thought processes. This is where you prove that you can communicate via code. This is also a way that they know that your work is unique and that you understand what you're writing. In this case, it was asked in one of the questions that was posted today, would you write your comments or your part C inside of a block comment? Would you at this time get rid of the comment lines? Whatever works best for you. Arvin, question?
Oh yeah, I was a little bit confused. So, do we have three questions then?
So you're
Or
going to have two questions. Each question will have two or three parts. So if you've looked at previous FRQs, the previous FRQs have had anywhere from write a whole class to a part A, part B, part C that have all been code writing.
yeah.
On this one, we're going to see a part A and part B that are code writing, and a part C that is an open-ended answer the question with
Oh,
sentences.
okay.
Yeah, and they say over and over, do not write code. They might ask you, given this new situation, what method header would you use? Or what new variable would you need to create? Or what variable would no longer be necessary? Describe how you would modify your existing code to meet this new criteria. And here they're trying to see if you understand how to take working code and update it to fit a new demand.
Yeah, I have another question.
Yeah,
Um, for the accepted files, it says it doesn't say text file, although when I was doing the practice upload, it did allow for text file.
I know. I found the practice link, and I'll get to that in a minute, the one that's down here at the bottom. I found this to be a little misleading because it kind of lets you upload anything. For example, it let me upload a PDF from Notability, even though they don't want a PDF of handwriting. it let me up, like it was letting me upload things that it shouldn't let me. So I would look at this more as a process of making sure your browser is working, because if you get a pop-up error that your browser is out of date, or if you have extensions you need to disable, I would use it for that purpose. And then I would, when you're doing your work, I would follow these instructions in terms of what you need to have. But it was letting me upload things too that were disallowed. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't go by that.
Oh, so okay, because I was just kind of confused because it said that the text file was accepted, like in the.
You know, it very well might be. I'll have to double check. Now that I think about it, I do think a text file was accepted. So I will double check that, and if it is, I will update this document.
Okay.
I know that a Word doc, a Google Doc, and a PDF are all accepted, and I know that a .java file is not accepted. So I will double check on the text file. I feel like it is, now that I think about it. I just, for whatever reason, left it off this list. So I will double check that in once we get off this Zoom call.
Okay.
But back to the code. So after you finish typing out all of your answers, you want to make sure you label them part A, part B, part C. After you finish labeling them all, at this point, it's up to you where you want to copy and paste your work. You can try copying and pasting your solution directly into the answer box. And Arvin was referring to this link down here. If you haven't already, you definitely want to go to this link and just test out the environment, see what it looks like. It'll give you a chance to see kind of just a little preview of how it's going to look on test day. And then you can copy and paste your answer right into a text box. You are not allowed to type into this text box. It won't let you, but you can copy and paste into it. Now, one time when I copied and pasted, I lost all formatting. The other time, it preserved formatting. No rhyme or reason, it was just a different day of the week. So that's why I would practice different methods. Another option is you can copy and paste it directly into a Word doc, Google Doc, text file. Somebody asked me in the discussion post today whether or not that file had to have a specific name. Again, the name of the file is irrelevant. What matters is that you have your initials, your AP ID number at the top of the file. That is what matters. If it were me, I would probably save it as, you know, maybe my name and question 1, I don't know, because it's going to be uploaded specifically to question 1 and then specifically to question 2. So that's how that work's going to be turned in.
Listen, can we code snip? Can we just like use the
Nope.
snipping tool? No.
No. So that's another good thing to mention. So this is where, so let me just add that to this. Let's see. I was trying to keep this to one page. You cannot code snipping. So no code snipping. No photos of your code. And that was part of the reason why I really wanted to make sure we had this conversation today, because I feel like this test in particular is different from all your other AP tests. Like English, history, you're going to be typing your answer, no big deal. You know, math, chem, physics, you're probably handwriting your answer, no big deal. But I feel like comp sci is a little different because we have taken photos of our computer screen. We have snipped our code. We've done things that you haven't done in other classes. And this is where I want to make sure that we're very clear on this. They do not want code snips. They do not want photos of your code. So you either upload a document, either a PDF of your code or a Word doc, a Google Doc, and I'm pretty sure that you can do a text file. I'll verify that, but I'm pretty sure you can do a text file. And then that gets uploaded, or you take an image file of handwriting, whether it's a screenshot of your Notability handwriting or an image of handwritten code on paper. Other questions so far?
So say you didn't have more pages, do you still have to say like page 1 at the top? Like if you didn't have more pages?
I probably would, just to be safe. I'm sure you'd be fine if you didn't, but I don't see why it wouldn't hurt to have it there. Other questions so far?
I have a question.
Mrs. Deva.
Yep. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Who said they had a question?
Arvind.
Okay, Arvin.
Yeah. So when we do paste our code in, should we just like label part A, part B, part C?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And then who else had a question?
April, so will both questions be formatted with the 3 parts?
Yes, they will. And then, so a couple things in terms of preparing ahead of time. So, oh, and then before I forget, they specifically said that if you use the Grammarly extension in Chrome, you have to disable it, otherwise it will not work. So if you're a Grammarly user, I know I use that a lot. If you're a Grammarly user, you might want to go ahead and disable that. Or if you don't want to disable it, then you could use a different browser. So those are your choices, but just know that ahead of time. In terms of preparing ahead of time, I would definitely make sure that you have your, if you're going to use Notability, have your note ready with that information. If you're going to use, if you're going to copy and paste in a Word doc or Google Doc, have your name, IP or AP ID number. You just want to have all that stuff ready. You don't want to have to be dealing with trying to look up your ID number and just freaking out during that moment. There's no pause button, okay? I would also recommend just making an easy to find folder on your desktop so that way you're not having to spend time browsing for it, or an easy to find folder in your Google Drive. You know, label it like AA AP testing, so that way it's the first one alphabetically, or something like that, just to make it easy on yourself. In terms of notes you want to have available, so this is an open notes test, right? However, remember, just because it's open notes does not mean you're going to have all the time in the world. The time is going to go by fast, and they stressed that they wrote this test knowing that you have open notes, knowing that you have the ability to look things up. So they're going to be, first of all, they mentioned that that it's very common that they expect students to run out of time. Let me say that again. They expect you guys will run out of time. And they also said that you can still earn a 5 even if you don't finish all parts of the exam. So they are trying to give you a lot of opportunities to prove what you know, okay? So if there's something that you're like, I don't understand this part, start reading the next part. It's quite possible you might not know how to write the code, but you might be able to answer the open-ended question, okay? So think back when we would have our tests in class. Some of you did fantastic writing paragraph answers, but then you didn't do so great when you had to write the code answers. This is an opportunity for multiple ways to express your knowledge. So just don't freak out if you get stuck on one spot, okay? In terms of things you want to have ready for you, that quick reference guide for the AP exam, I have that in a folder. I put together a new folder of all AP resources on Schoology. I'll show that at the end of this presentation. And you definitely want to make sure you have that, because every free response question can be solved using those methods. So if you have that available and you get stuck, you can look at that, and maybe seeing a method name might jog your memory. Some of you have been making your own study guides, awesome. Others have been collaborating and saying, you know, I'll make a study guide for these 2 chapters, you make one for these 2 chapters, we'll share them with each other. Great, you know, that's a great way to communicate and collaborate. That's wonderful, okay? Important thing to recognize, if you are doing that, and again, I encourage that, that is a fantastic way to study. You wanna make sure that you are not accessing any of those shared documents during testing. That is considered collaborating on the exam, okay? Even if you're not talking about the exam, if you and another person are, even if no one else is even logged into that document, if you open up a document that is shared with other people, they can consider that cheating during your exam. So a way around that is you can download a local copy of that document. So you can send it to yourself on Notability. You can download it on your computer. You can print it. Do something so that way you can still view the material without viewing it in a shared capacity. That is the key thing. And then make sure that your files are named well, because I've seen you guys when you're trying to even just find your homework that you did 2 days ago, and sometimes it takes you 30 seconds just to find that note in your Notability. So you don't want to be messing around trying to find stuff. Have a new section that simply has the best of the best notes, so that way if, you know, come AP time, you're looking for an example on for loops, an example on string methods, they're all right there, okay? Any questions about that section?
I have a question.
Yep.
So you said that it's best to write your code if you're using a computer in like a text editor and then copy and paste it into the answer box, or just directly write it into the
Well, you can't type directly in the answer box. The answer box won't let you type in there. You can only copy paste in there. So you can either type it in a text editor and then copy and paste it in the answer box, or you can type it in the text editor and then save it as one of the approved files and upload it from there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, so I know some people have expressed concern to me that they're concerned about cheating, not because, well, not because they're concerned because they want to cheat and know how. I hope that's not the issue. But they're concerned that other people are going to cheat, and because other people are going to cheat, then they can't get a good grade, and they can't get a good grade if they can't cheat. You see this vicious cycle. So I just want to get a couple things out of the way with regards to cheating. So first of all, like I said, they've got it out on the table that this is open notes. You're allowed to look at your old assignments, your old notes. You're allowed to prepare and have resources available. Okay, that is all okay. They want you to register for the test, enter what they call the waiting room, at least 15 minutes, preferably 30 minutes before the exam starts. And the reason why they want you to do this is because they have a series, and this is true for all of your tests, they have a series of security checks to put in place. They do things like they have you do a writing sample, and they're going to have you do some other things. And they're not even telling us what those systems are because they don't want people to know ahead of time, but they're doing a lot of things to help prevent cheating. And in one of the videos I watched, they even talked about how this same strategy they're employing for the AP test is what they're using for the GRE and the GMAT, which are high stakes tests to get into graduate school. I mean, kind of like SAT, but for graduate school. And if these systems are considered safe enough for those testing, that makes me think that they're safe enough for our testing. So that being said, they're very confident that their systems, that their testing systems they're putting into place are going to help stop cheating. Okay, now let's say people still try it anyway. I've heard a variety of different webinars and videos and whatnot, and in some cases they say they will employ these consequences. Sometimes they say they might, but these are the different penalties I've heard of. So first of all, they said that they will notify your admissions offices for universities you'll be attending for academic dishonesty. That's a biggie, right? Secondly, invalidating your AP score and blocking you from taking any more AP exams in the future, another biggie. And this last one's huge, not being allowed to take the SAT. For those of you that haven't taken your SAT yet, imagine if you weren't allowed to take the SAT. How are you going to get into college that requires an SAT score? And how are you going to explain, oh, I couldn't take it because I cheated on my AP test? Like, that's just, don't even do it. That's a horrible decision. So then the question becomes, okay, I don't want to cheat, but what do they consider cheating? Because I don't want to do it on accident, which sounds silly, but it's a fair question. So couple simple questions. Did you do the work? Because if you didn't, it's cheating. If your parents help you, if your older brother sibling is helping you, if you have a tutor come over to help you, any of those things, that's cheating. If you called your friend, if you and your friends were in a group chat, if you were texting about solutions, if you were on any form of anything, if you were talking to anybody, that's cheating. So basically, if you have to ask, it's pretty much cheating, right? Like, do the work yourself, okay? And a couple other things that I saw is that the College Board will have a digital record of your test. They'll know which IP address you're testing from. They'll know what you've been doing on your test. They're going to be scanning in the test for with plagiarism detection software. They're going to be scanning in your images. They've got a whole slew of things that they're doing. So the moral of that story is they are prepared to keep the integrity of the test there. And this is not meant to be a challenge. This is meant to just be a reminder that we want to be just as honorable as we would if we were at school. Yes, Arvind.
Oh, I don't actually have a question.
Oh, you don't?
I think I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay. Then lower your, let's see. Oh, I just lowered your hand. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Oh, hey, Mason, question. What's up?
Okay, so say like I forgot how to write a for loop.
Mhm.
Would I be allowed to Google like how to write a for loop in Java?
So they've made it sound like Googling is okay. This is kind of a slippery slope though, because it was asked by another student, what if your Google takes you to a website that happens to have a chat room or a forum? And chat rooms and forums are not okay. So this is where I would say your best bet is having a prepared kind of sample of things. For example, the structure of for loops, your key methods for arrays and array lists. You've got your sample code. You're able to look on your computer at past for loops you've written. That to me is a much better way to look up the syntax than to be Googling for loops and possibly having it taking you into a website that they consider a blocked website, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Other questions? All right. So let me just point out a couple other things. So this link at the bottom, this brings, oops, up here. This link brings you to a practice upload process. And I'm not going to go through it all right now, just because it takes time. But I will mention that, see, I got this pop-up that my browser is not supported. So apparently I don't have the most updated version of Chrome, which I need to update. If you get this same experience, then you want to make sure that you update your browser, because if this were the actual AP test, then my browser would not work. And I don't know about you, but that is stress I do not want come AP day. All right. Now for this practice test, it says just to use the word practice. On the actual day, you would type in your AP ID. If I could type. And then you're going to go through and you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff about, you know, limiting or your information. And they're just telling you kind of what you're going to see here. And then this is going to be the countdown that you're going to see. Now, you'll have on the actual exam time, you'll see a countdown that is the full time plus the 5-minute upload time. So somebody had asked in the discussion today if we would have a countdown on the screen, and you will. And it starts out being, I think it starts out being black, and then it turns red when you're in the final 5 minutes. So, you know, somebody had asked me, so does that mean that we really have 30 minutes to do the problem? Well, depends on how much of a gambler you are, right? So here's the thing. You have 30 minutes to do and complete and update or upload your problem. So whether you take 25 minutes to do it and 5 minutes to upload, 28 minutes to do it and 2 minutes to upload, if you don't hit upload before your time is done, you get 0 points. So that is kind of a gamble that you choose to take. Depending on how you are sending your work back and forth from yourself, if you're taking it from your iPad and screenshotting it and emailing it and downloading it, that all takes time. If you're typing it on your computer and all you have to do is hit save and upload, that takes a little bit less time. So these are things to think about, okay? So this website just gives you an example to see what the testing environment's like, so you can go here and try this out. Another thing that I want to point out to you is if we go to Schoology, or this is another website that I posted. Here, let me first go to Schoology, and then I'll show you some of the resources I've been referring to. I feel like, I don't know if your life is anything like mine, but I feel like so much has been shared with me that I'm getting inundated and I just can't keep up with it all. That's how I feel with AP at least. So I'm trying to not do that with you guys, but I'm sure I'm still not succeeding. Okay, so this is the folder that I put together. It says at-home resources for our AP test. And first of all, this README just kind of goes through everything that's in here. So we can see all the different stuff that we have. First of all, I put together a link. This is just a link. Oh, I spelled review wrong. Lovely. This is a link of all of the videos I posted on YouTube, so that way you don't have to search through my channel or the different days that we've had work. This is a list of all the videos from the College Board. So I want to point this out real quick because they have a lot of good stuff on here. Now, if you look at the videos, they start out with material that's not on our exam. And the reason why they did these videos is because many schools that closed in March hadn't gotten to that curriculum yet, and they wanted students to still be able to learn that curriculum. So that's why those videos are on there. But then we get to things like arrays and array lists and traversing arrays and for loops and all of these things related to arrays. Those are all things that we need to know for our test. So if you're not feeling comfortable with those topics, these are some videos you can watch. Then we have some videos on strings. So these are just more things in addition to what I've already shared with you. Now you notice that these videos are kind of long. They're long because they're really detailed. They're well done. They're done by some top-notch AP teachers, one from Ohio, one from Alabama, and she's got quite a y'all accent, but she's, you know, she's good. And then we get down here, and then we have these, what they call their deep dive free response strategies. And in these, let me see if I can move this over. There we go. And these, what they do, this is a 5-part series, and they go through a whole bunch of strategies for free responses. So if you're still feeling, after the practice that we've done, if you're still feeling, you know, like you're just not ready, again, they're long videos. That's a big time commitment to watch all of them, but we've got 2 weeks. So if you're looking for things to do, you might find some that watching some of these are helpful. And then this right here, this is what we're going to be doing this week for our homework. So I've actually assigned tomorrow, we're going to do this practice exam. And then the following day, we're going to review ourselves. And then we have the next exam and so on. Now, what they're going to do in this one is they basically show you the process of taking the test. They show you what it's going to look like. And then in the, pause this so she doesn't start talking over me. Oopsies. Yep, see, that wasn't me. Did you hear that twang? And down here in the comments, you can see, you can link to the questions. And so in here, you'll get a chance to see what those open-ended questions look like. And I did this yesterday because yesterday is when it was posted live. And I found it kind of annoying to listen while the test was running because like every 2 minutes the guy was saying, by now you should be doing this, and by now you should be, and to me that threw me off. Every time he started talking, I lost my train of thought. So you might find at that time when they start the test to just mute it so that way you can use the timer but not hear it. If you've been struggling with your pacing, you might prefer to leave the sound on so that way you can listen to their guides as to where you should be. To give you a little perspective, the first question was 25 minutes, and I think I finished my answer in about 15, 16-ish minutes. So still very doable, very on par with the timing that the other questions used to take. It took me a little bit longer because I wrote a very lengthy open-ended question at the end. Then the next question, the 15-minute question, I think that one I took about 9 or 10 minutes on. But again, like it was very reasonable, very doable. And so you'll notice that some of these, they have how long they are, and then others say live. That's because they haven't happened yet. So if you want to watch them live, you can, or you can just wait. I've assigned them all so that way they're not live anymore. That way you didn't have to wait till 3 o'clock to do your homework that day. All right, any questions on the College Board AP resources? And then if you're in any other AP classes, the College Board has put together these same resources for every single AP class. So if you weren't aware of that, all you have to do is search, you know, AP Physics 1 and 2, AP, you know, US History or whatever, and you'll find the exact same types of resources. Okay, so if we go back to this folder of information, this has that document that I pointed out to you today. This here has my very detailed notes that I took when I watched like this, I don't know, hour-long webinar, and it has some screenshots with some of the information in there. So if you felt like there was something that you needed more clarification on from what I said today, maybe read through this. I also talked in here about what to do if you're not getting emails from College Board, some things about difficulty, so you know, all different, there's some screenshots of some of their notes in here and whatnot. So it's definitely very detailed. It's like, well, it's 12 pages long, so it's very detailed. So hopefully there's more information in there that can help you as well. Okay, other questions? Anything at all? Yeah, Preeti?
Can we use like 2 devices, like our iPad for looking at notes and then our computer for like uploading our solution?
Yeah, so I've in the video that I watched, they said whichever device you access the test on, that's the one that you need to upload your solution on. So yes, if it were me and I were taking the test, I would have my iPad prepped as my like note space, and then I would have my computer as my typing window, and I would do a split screen. So I would have, like when I did this yesterday and I took my test yesterday, let's say this was my exam, which it's not, but let's just say it is. I would have my exam, you know, on half my screen, and then I would put my, do I have Eclipse open? No, I don't. Let's just say this was Eclipse. I would have Eclipse open on the other half, and so that I could look at the question and me typing at the same time, and then I would have my notes off to the side on my iPad to refer to if needed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So when we're making our classes, is it better to just call it like AP question 1, or should we like name it based off of what the problem is about?
Well, the code that you're going to be turning in, so let's say the problem was about gadgets, okay? So, and let's say in the gadget they had a method that you had to write that was called tune-up. Then all you would be doing is you would be writing the methods. You'd say like public void tune-up, I don't know, gadget G. And so this is why I would not want to use Word, because it already capitalized the P in public, so that's going to annoy me. It's underlining tune-up, so that's going to annoy me. Now, if I was typing in Eclipse, it would underline the word gadget because it doesn't know what a gadget is. So this is where you kind of have to pick and choose what does and doesn't annoy you, and that's where the practice will come into play. So when you do the 2 practice tests that are posted on this YouTube channel, that's where I want you to, before you take them, think about what you want to do. Are you planning on handwriting your solution on Notability? Are you planning on typing it on Notepad or Eclipse? Think about what you think works best for you, and then try taking the test in that format. So notice that they don't care what I call the class. They just want me to write the code for the method. So I'd probably say something like Part A. And then at the top, I'd probably, have like my initials, and then I'd have whatever my ID number is, I don't know. And then I would have Part A. And then after that, I would have my Part B. And then after that, I would have my Part C. And then I would write my open-ended question, whatever sentences I had to write for my open-ended question.
Is like the name and ID part required at the top?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, your initials and your ID, your AP ID, are required at the top of your code file, at the top of like your document, and it's required to be handwritten at the top of any handwriting Notability or handwriting paper you do.
Okay.
For the open-ended question, when you're responding to that, is it okay if you write it as like a multiple line comment in Eclipse, or
Yes.
should we? Oh, okay.
That's fine. Yeah, you can write it as a multi-line comment. You can write it as regular text, whatever works best for you. Because especially because if you're let's say you were typing the rest of your solution in Eclipse, then putting your open-ended inside a multi-line comment would make more sense, because then you're not having a ton of errors popping up every single line. But yeah, that's totally fine. And they even said that in one of the videos I watched. They even said that was perfectly okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Geez, if I can figure out how. Let me stop my screen share and stop my recording.